Podcast comparative analysis. I will be doing podcast option 3, and I will be ranking them from worst to best. Starting off with Ethan Hawke's version. Out of everything, it was the worst, mainly because it was just too modern and nothing seemed to fit. It just didn't seem to mesh well with the Shakespearean words that they were trying to do with all of their modern, all the modern costumes and scenery. Moving on to Kenneth's version. The scenery seemed almost too empty for me, and it gave it more of a dead feel. The costumes didn't seem as middle-aged as Gibson's version, so I'm going to be putting it in second place there. Also, with the empty scenery, the actors' voices seemed to echo just a slight little bit, which I caught on to, and it ruined the sort of realism for me that I seem to expect from movies. Hamlet's actor just portrayed Hamlet as angry in Act 3, Scene 4, and as he was speaking so fast, his words sounded like he was mumbling everything together, and I couldn't make out a bunch of the parts. The settings, once again, scenes were too empty, and it made them feel dead and very almost underbudgeted. And theme-wise, they really seem to go overboard with the madness. How once again, Hamlet is portrayed as very angry and in your face and not really making sense. And now on to Gibson's version. Mel Gibson's version, the scenery seemed very realistic and almost perfect for the time that Hamlet would have been written in. It seemed appropriate for the time. The costume seemed appropriate for the time that Hamlet was written in, and it didn't seem too modern, and it didn't seem too middle-aged. It was just the right amount of old-timey fashion with slightly newer materials, and it seemed very well for me. It seemed very well to me. Sounding. The sound was very good. There was no echoes or overlapping sounds in the scenes that I watched. And on the nonverbal part, the actor who portrays Hamlet seemed very unstable by going from anger to shock to remorse, making Hamlet seem so much more human and lifelike than in Kenneth's version, where he just seemed to be one emotion of anger. As the actor who portrayed Hamlet in Mel Gibson's version, he was much more articulate as he was arguing with his mother. You could make out individual things, and it seemed the whole thing just seemed better than the rest of them for those little main parts. The setting, it was very well established and seemed very alive. It seemed like he knew so much of how it was going to be in that time, and the scenes reflected that. There didn't really seem to be any plot holes in anything that I could find. Theme-wise, it got over the major themes of revenge and madness very well, of Hamlet's unstableness, plus the revenge of stabbing Polonius. And it just seemed the best out of all three of them. So that is my ranking order for the podcast. Thank you for your time.